never been true. I'm a living while I'm living, to the Father I will pray. Only Him know how we get through. Every day it's only I in the price. I'm a leg we have to pay while our leaders play. All I see, people are rip and a rob, all are grime. Thief never love is the thief with long back.
Good evening and welcome once again to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram and thank you very much for joining me. Let me immediately apologize for my absence last weekend. We did ask that a notice be put on the television and I hope that was done, but I still do apologize. You would have been following in the media that the Guyana Public Service Union was embroiled in a matter with its members concerning the holding of elections, which largely centered on the role of the president, Mr. Patrick Yard, a long-time serving president, and perhaps more directly, the availability of financial statements to be presented to the members of the Guyana Public Service Union at their members' meeting. An injunction had been granted against the holding of the meeting, but earlier this afternoon, Wednesday, April 26th, the judge discharged the injunction based on some financial statements, or what passes for financial statements, because they really are a disgrace to be called financial statements, that were presented to the Auditor General and then presented to the court. All that happens, we see with the financial statements, a letter signed by the Auditor General dated 24th of April 2017, saying that we wish to inform you that the last audit opinion issued in respect of the Guyana Public Service Union was for the year ended December 31, 2003. That is 14 years ago. That can't be accountability. The Auditor General, someone signing on his behalf, said the audit for the years ended 2004 and 2005 was completed and management letters issued to the Union on 4th of November 2016. Again, there's no indication when the documents and the books and records for 2004 and 2005 were submitted to the Auditor General. The opinion was issued on the management letter issued on the 4th of November 2016 and are awaiting a response to the findings. And we are further told by the Office of the Auditor General that the draft financial statements for the years 2006 to 2016, those would be 11 years, have been submitted for audit. There's no indication when those draft financial statements were submitted, and might I say, speaking as an accountant, I do not consider these draft financial statements at all. They're an apology for financial statements, and they really are an embarrassment to whoever might have prepared them. But that's my personal view. Let me now introduce my guests. Let's start from the far right, Mr. Gregory Gasper. He is one of the members of the group. I think you actually were the person who brought the action. Yes. Miss Shelfra Torrington. Miss Karen Vansluytman, we've got to know her name. It's been associated with Patrick Yard for some years now.
Yes.
And with the Public Service Union. And Mr. Jermaine Hermanstyne. So let me say thank you very much. Now,
Thank you very much too.
Thanks for having us.
yes, I really appreciate having you. I don't think any one of you has been on Plain Talk for the whatever number of years
Yeah.
it's been going, but I hope you would come back if I invite you again.
Certainly. Dealing with
Patrick.
topics.
Well,
and Patrick Yard and the
Patrick.
GPSU.
yes. Well, I think the broader issue of the labor movement, because labor rights are human rights, labor rights are democracy.
Yes.
And until we start addressing and taking an active role, and if I may say so, some of the modern day trade unionists and those who are posing as leaders have helped to kill
Yes.
the trade union movement and therefore kill the democratic rights
Yes.
of people. Tell me your reaction when the judge discharged this injunction against the holding of the general meeting, which I think is going to take place tomorrow, Thursday.
Yes.
Yes.
What was your, as the applicant in this matter, Mr. Gasper, what was your reaction?
Well, one of disappointment, because I was really looking forward to the elections being put on hold so that we can get some justice in terms of accountability in the union.
Yes.
So I was very disappointed with the judge decision, but life goes on and the fight goes on.
But
Struggle continues.
but let me say that we see this as a minor setback. We does not believe that Patrick Yard has accomplished anything in a major way. We have brought two actions before the court. The first action initially that we had brought before the court is the fact that we're saying that the union have not been audited for the past 14 years, and therefore, according to the rules of the union, Rule 13, it says that on the 1st of May every year, the accounts of the union shall be audited. Shall meaning it is mandatory in law. So it means that for the past 15 years, the union has been in breach, and this is because the president of the union have not presented the accounts of the union to be audited.
I don't know if you want to read the exact section.
Certainly.
Jeremy.
So 13A says the book and accounts of the union shall be made as accessible to the Auditor General for inspection and audit before the first day of May in each year. That is 13A. It goes on to 13B, which says a copy of the Auditor General report shall be laid before the biannual delegates conference and shall be exhibited in a conspicuous place in the register office of the union. So according to Rule 13, two things is likely to happen. One, on the 1st of May each year, the accounts of the union have to be audited. It is compulsory.
No,
Because the
first of May, the books have to be presented.
Right, to be audited.
Yes.
So, and then you have B, which says that the audited statements shall be placed before the biannual delegates conference. The biannual delegates conference, it is the highest forum, decision-making body in the union. As a matter of fact, it is the biannual delegates conference by which, if there's an election, they are empowered to install whoever it is that has been elected to hold office from president right down to general member to serve on the executive council.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, this body, for it to be functional, you have to have over 50% of the branches to be active. Now,
Let's deal with the accounts for now. We'll get to the accounts.
yes, okay. So the issue here is that it is premised on this issue that we brought the action in court. We also recognize that since that we have brought this matter before the court, we know that the Patrick Yard is trying to go ahead with the elections. because he seems to be of the opinion that despite this action that we're carrying, if he gets re-elected into office, it will mean that he could still remain there, which is far from the truth, right? So we recognize that, well, look, perhaps it is prudent to stop the elections too. So we went ahead and filed an injunction to stop the elections. So there are two issues that were before the court.
All right, we'll get to the second one. Let's deal with the finances. I don't know, Ms. Vansluytman and Ms. Torrington. Do you want to add something about this? About what happened in court today? Were you there today in court?
Sure, Provost.
Yes, I was present there. I was disappointed with the judge's decision, seeing that perspective of the union, and as a paying member, everybody would like to know how their money is accounted for, and it is sad that the judge choose to discharge the interim injunction, because what it does to the public or the average public servant is that it gives the impression that if you're handling people money, you don't need to account for it, because he said at the ruling that he's discharging it because the Auditor General would not be able to have those audited reports in time. All right?
So he's giving to a guilty party or a derelict party the benefit
that's correct.
of their
Yes,
dereliction.
yes,
That's correct.
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Right? So it's going away to the public or the average public servant that you handling anybody's money, well, you could do whatever you want, how long you want, and get away with it.
Ms. Vansluytman, you want to add anything to that?
At this point in time, no. I was not present at the court because I had other pressing duties at work to attend to. But I'll deal with other issues.
But let me just say, Chris, that the judge explanation on this issue was that he felt that while it is that the statements that were before him, he recognized that there seems to be some anomalies that exist within those statements. He said that the decision that he was making was in the best interest of the membership in terms of the running of the union. He believed, the judge believed that as it relates to the core issues of whether or not Patrick Yard and his executive council members could remain in office will be settled by the Honorable Justice Priya Sisnarayan Bihari. Sisnarayan Bihari.
Let's talk about, we stick to these financial statements. I've had a very quick look at these statements. These were presented to the court.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got these from the court.
Yes.
They're incomplete. For example, each set says C note 2 or note 3,
Yes.
and
And
note 4 or note 5.
There is no note.
And there are no
And
notes.
this- yes.
So they are right on the face of these documents. They are incomplete. But let's look at these
Yet,
statements.
just before you move on from the Mr. Ram, yet still, Yard and his cronies, I want to refer to them as, are
We try to be
pushing
very respectful to everybody in
Yes.
this program.
that they have up-to-date financial statements and treasurer's reports, right? That is what they're pushing to the membership
Well,
of the,
this
and
is
by
signed by
virtue
a
of
general.
that,
This is signed by a general
Yes.
secretary,
Trust.
and a trustee. A trustee by the name of apparently Watson.
Mhm.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
let me say that when this matter went to court, it went to court on the grounds that we were saying that the grounds for the injunction was that you needed an audited statement as well as the treasurer's report. Now, it means that the onus was on the union to provide a treasury report and an audited accounts. So, what was presented in court were these statements. Now, if you recognize, on any one of the pages within that document, there's no treasurer that is signing any of the document that gives ownership of a treasurer's report. For a document to be a treasurer's report, the treasurer have to sign. But what has been happening is for the past decade, the union has been operating without a treasurer. And then the assistant treasurer, who at the time, which is an elected position, exactly, the assistant treasurer was Thomas Nestor. Thomas Nestor's taken a position that he feels that that he no longer wants to serve on the executive because it impinges on his integrity. And I understand that.
All right, Jermaine, I know how strong you feel about this, but let's. I want to go to these accounts because they tell a very, very troubling story. If you look at these financial statements, at December 31, the GPSU had a mere $2,361,41,000 in the bank. The GPSU is spending approximately $7 million per month. If you take the 2016 expenses, admin and general, 80.9 million, depreciation expenses, 2.8. Well, depreciation is not a cash expense, but if you take the admin and general alone, $80.9 million. Now, this union has some financial problems.
Or so it would appear.
That's what they say. They can't now say.
No, that's the statement.
This says that we have cash on hand and at bank $2,341,867. That's this union is in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
It is without a doubt.
Yeah.
I only have 2 million.
And this union has an accumulated deficit of $26 million. Now, if we look from 2004, this union has been running deficits. What kind of administration have you people been overlooking in the execution of the GPSU? You all are responsible. You're members.
Yes, that's correct.
Why have you allowed this serious financial problem to have developed in the Guyana Public Service Union? All of you, no, don't pass the buck now.
No. Well, let me say that the geology minds only recently wrote the Guyana Public Service Union concerning the audit of the accounts. And by way of a letter, they've made it clear that in keeping with the rules, as members, they would like to see the audit of the union, and they want to have a look at these records.
Not only that.
In response,
Not only that, in 2015, the Bureau of Statistics branch would have written the...
You're from the Bureau of Statistics.
That's correct. The Bureau of Statistics branch...
So you know something about numbers. Go on.
would have written the Secretariat asking for...
This is the Public Service Union Secretariat.
Yes, that's correct. Asking for them to justify an increase in union dues. And sadly enough, what we got was in response from them was a cuss out letter and no address to the reason why the increase. In our letter also to the Public Service Union, we have quoted the rule, same rule 13, about the audited financial report. And to date, we still are waiting a written feedback to that information.
As a matter of fact, GGMC, when they wrote concerning the accounts, what they got was a copy of the rule. Rather than saying, okay, in keeping with the rules, you shall make these statements and so on available. We'll make it available to you. The response that they got
There's a quote
was
in the very
a
rule.
quote back of the very rule and sent back to them.
Let's look at 2015 financial statements. It says dues and other union dues 61 million, other income 9.8 million, 70, so that's 70.843 million. The expenses outside of depreciation, the cash expenses was 70 million 768
So they spent out all the
thousand.
money.
So they spent
spend
out
all the money. And to do what?
all the money. Well, there is a note for these documents that you have supplied us with does not have the notes. Now, 2016.
All the money
So
spent.
we had 70 million in income and 70 million in expenses in 2015. In 2016, you must have had a fairly substantial rise in the union dues. Did your union dues go up?
The union dues went up in 2016, January.
By what kind of percentage?
$300.
300 over
1200 to
That's
1500.
25%.
25%. So that's about right, because the union dues went up in 2015 from 61 million to 76 million, roughly 25%. And what do we find? Your expenses
Increase too.
went up.
Yes, it
By-
went up. More
by
money coming, so more
almost
money to
this-
spend and abuse.
But I don't think that that's a surprise to any one of us,
Yes.
including you, Chris.
It may not be a surprise, but it's a serious problem when one of your leading unions in the country operates in this kind of financial manner.
Well, the reason why I'm saying that I don't believe that is a surprise to any of us, including yourself, because everyone out there in the public service knows that Patrick Yard spent most of his time in the U.S. and overseas rather than here locally. So,
And the union
every time he
funds
travels,
those travels.
the union travels,
Yeah.
exactly.
The union funds those travels.
So,
So
what do you
what
expect?
kind of work does he do when he goes abroad? What does he do for the GPSU, and most importantly, for the members of the GPSU?
Well, we're not
Yes.
seeing it being reflected.
exactly. There's no evidence to substantiate that he's doing anything to the benefit
Of
the
the
members.
membership
Because
and the
clearly you've
union.
had over 20 years of
Stagnant.
his
Stagnation,
inability to negotiate for proper wages and salaries for the public service.
And that is what ought to be changed. And public servants, that is what I want them to recognize. That has been happening over the years.
Well, now that these accounts are out,
Yes.
these accounts don't reflect very well, and that's putting it very politely. They don't reflect well on this long list: president, CEO, first vice president, second vice president, third vice president, deputy general secretary, principal, assistant secretary, assistant. You've got 19 officers in this union.
Yes.
This is a big bureaucracy.
Yes, and the union is, as you say, in deficit, but yet still the president's salary is about
Approximately
1.3 million.
1.3 million.
monthly.
His salary.
Are you sure?
That is our information. As a matter of fact, let me say this, that what Patrick Yard is doing, his salary is over $1 million. We know that for sure.
Yes.
But the highest paid staff after Patrick Yard do not receive more than 300,000. So this man is an island. This man believes that he's a pharaoh, he's an authority unto himself.
Well, why go after Patrick Yard alone? Look, you've got 19 people here. Mortimer, Levan, Don Gardner, Carmelita Lawless,
But
Kempton,
you
Alexander.
got to understand, Patrick holds the string. Not
But ideally it should be the executive council
Absolutely.
giving directions to the president. But in the case of the GPSU, it is not so. It is the president, in the person of Patrick Yard, who controls what is done by the executive council. They have no say. It is just a show. Well, we do not agree, but because Yard is what Yard wants, they have to agree. They have no choice. They have no other option. And that is how it is done. That is the abuse of power that is taking place at the Guyana Public Service
You know,
Union.
Rule 4 says, Rule 4, which is titled Constitution and Government, it says the supreme authority of the Union shall be vested in the Biennial Delegates Conference,
Yeah.
and subject to that authority, the Union shall be governed by a General Council, and between meetings of the General Council, by the Executive Council. It doesn't say anything about the President.
That's correct. But
Have you observed he has titled himself the Chief Executive Officer?
Well, I believe there might be some basis in the rules for that.
Well, yes, there is something in there.
But that's not the point.
But, exactly.
The rule 4 says how the council is to be governed. You start the senior most authority is the Biennial Delegates Conference.
Yeah.
Next comes between those the General Council, and between those the meetings of the General Council, the Executive Council.
But
this doesn't say anything about the President.
That's
In fact, democracy is about first among equals.
but
No
you gotta
democracy exists there.
But you gotta
Absolutely
understand
none.
that for the biannual delegate conference, there must be 50% active branches.
Uh-huh.
And for the branch to exist, it has to have elections,
Mm-hmm.
which has to be done by the secretariat. So what is happening is that the secretariat do not carry out any branch elections. So we have on record 65 branches, but in actual fact, it's only 4 or 3 that are functioning. So Mr. Yard and the Executive Council, Mr. Yard mainly, is in a position to control everything. So the biannual delegates conference, if so called, cannot have a quorum. And the Executive Council, most of them are not members of any branch.
They're
They're
retired.
non-public
They're retired.
servants. They're
This-
retirees.
You see,
Well, let's clear this business of the title of the president. Is the president and the chief executive officer and official spokesman of the union.
Correct.
So, for the president of the union to describe himself further as chief executive officer is not incorrect, in accordance with the
no,
rule.
but it makes him the chief executive. It makes him the administrative head.
Yes, but he would be subject. He would be subject to Rule 4,
Yes.
which we say is the executive. That's how
Exactly.
democracy works.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the point.
You know, part of the problem I think we have in Guyana, politics, in all the political parties, all the trade union movement, perhaps the professional bodies, the lawyers and doctors and accountants, we have a problem with democracy. We don't like it. But it's clear that between meetings he is subject to the dictates of the executive council.
And that doesn't happen.
You see,
But-
'cause the
Sorry,
only,
go on.
The only thing that I would disagree with is the fact that people not liking democracy. Some people do like democracy, but only when it is circumstantial.
skewed.
Well,
It's
that
only
is
when
not
it-
that
it's
is not
only when
the,
it's-
that's not democracy.
Yeah,
Your
that's
Honor.
not
exactly, it is
democracy,
not.
That is
But-
opportunism. That's rank opportunism.
But
Yes.
this is the case with the Ghana Public Service Union.
Man, it's the case with all of them. Seriously.
But let
Our
me bring this.
concern is with the Guyana Public,
Public Service Union.
Yes, exactly. Let me
Yes.
bring this. Let me bring this to the table. In terms of the Executive Council, the Executive Council is made up of over close to 60 to 70% of the person who sits there are persons who are already retired out of the public service. Now, that in itself, I believe, was carefully orchestrated by Patrick Yard to ensure that these persons.
But you people have to
who-
take the blame. And I'm sorry, I'm going to criticize you. Karen, I think you do an excellent job, but we only hear about you when biennial Congress coming along. And you're challenging. You have to be able to fight day in. As you said, the struggle is a continuous struggle. You have to move to get changes to the rules. Go on, please.
I think the last scheduled election would have been in 2013.
Yes.
That's correct.
Our branch would not have been aware that there would have been an election in 2013, and there wasn't any election in 2013 because there wasn't any opposing slate. So those persons who are presently the Executive Council were not elected. There wasn't any elections.
And 2009.
There wasn't any elections.
2005, if I may just add to what Gasper has just said.
Yes,
2005 was the last real elections that they had. That was the year when I contested for the presidency. The next year, 4 years would have been 2009.
And then
2009, Patrick Yard slide through without knowledge to most of the public servants and the members and the branches and the ministries that there should have been elections, that they were unopposed, so they were returned. 2013, he did the same thing, and his intention was to have done it in 2017.
You see, you got to understand, Chris, that what Patrick Yard is doing, he has created a situation where he controls the mechanism of the Ghana Public Service Union, and this is just an example of his dictatorship. Because all of us, we've got together, we've decided that this cannot continue any no longer. We're going to have to take some action against Patrick Yard, and we came out. He started to recognize that we've been getting information. So he called the staff and told the staff that he knows who's giving information to us, and after this election he will dismiss them.
Yes.
He has
He will
literally,
dismiss them.
this is a trade unionist
Yeah.
who has threatened the staff. Even, what makes it even more worse, Chris?
But why aren't you people using the press more often? Why aren't you people going to the registrar of trade union and say, look, nonsense is taking place in my union. I want an investigation. Why aren't you doing that?
Well, I believe that what we were not able to achieve, it is proper press coverage from all of the major houses.
You never asked me. None of you has ever asked me.
That is true.
That
is true.
is true.
But we've been getting excellent coverage from Starbuck News. And we
Prime
must say that
News,
we are grateful
Prime
to them
News
as well
too.
as Prime News.
Yes.
The other major houses, we've been getting some press coverage, but at the minimum. But at the end of the day, right, the reality exists that these issues are right there at the union, where you have a union that is run by the president and his executive council and a staff of about, I think it's about 14 or 15 people, and these staff are forced to pay union dues. So you have a staff
To the union that they work with.
you have a staff who's paying union dues to their
employer. Yeah.
who, if they have a problem, this same employer is their representative.
Mm-hmm.
And this employer is the person who has been on television, who has been in the paper press, who have been in the Caribbean, in the region. He's been internationally and has presented himself as a trade unionist.
Let me ask you something.
Representing the rights of workers, when in fact he has not been doing that.
This is hypocrisy
Yes.
on the highest scale.
Let me ask you people, because again, I'm not sure that the court and maybe the Auditor General are alerted to this. You have trustees. Who are the trustees? And where are the accounts of the trust?
Well, the trustees are appointed by the same biennial delegates conference, and the trustees are presently there's Mr. Kenneth Watson, and this Viola Isaacs, yes.
But my second question: where are the financial statements from the trustees?
No, the trustees don't.
Well, in keeping
This thing is a farce.
you see,
Yeah,
in
it is a
keeping with the
farce.
rules, it is a treasury report. It is a treasurer.
Yes, but you have a trustee. This union has a
Yes.
trustee. The
Yes.
trustees, all of whom shall be members but not officers or members of the shall be elected at the bank and shall hold office at the pleasure of the union. The true three trustees for the time being shall have vested in them all the movable and immovable properties of the union, and shall deal with such property as the delegates, conference, general council, and executive council may direct. Is this happening?
No.
No.
As a matter of fact, I'm
Your
glad.
rules are being violated.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that
Yes,
up.
the rules
What
are
you
being
have,
violated.
what you've just brought to my attention and what I recognize is that Kenneth Watson. I'm saying this on television here right now. Kenneth Watson, who is the trustee
Just
of the
don't
Ghana
defame
Public
anybody in this
Service
program.
Union, I am telling you, was never elected by the biennial delegates conference.
Well,
The
then
last,
but then you go and you challenge him in court. You've got to shake things up, young people. Stop being passive. Stop being.
But that is why we've started
Yes.
we have decided that it is time that we deal with this whole issue of the abuse of the Ghana Public Service Union. That is why we're here, and we've been out there several weeks highlighting these concerns.